The views and opinions expressed in the DILLIGAF podcast are those of the host alone and are not intended to express those of any other person, business, or entity. The DILLIGAF podcast is for entertainment only. These are my opinions and should not be interpreted as facts or advice. Think for yourself.
Keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the DILLIGAF podcast, talking about anything and everything that interests me. If it makes me think, laugh, cry, scream, rage, or say what the fuck, you'll hear about it. My name's Tom. I am your host. And first and foremost, I want to thank everybody who checked out last week's debut episode, getting to know me a little bit. If you haven't checked it out yet, the hell are you waiting for? Check it out. But again, thank you for watching or listening on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, rate, comment, share. All that stuff helps out the show. And make sure you're following on social media on all platforms. You can find the show at DILLIGAF_pod, or you can just go to our Linktree, which is Linktree/DILLIGAF_pod, or you can scan the little QR code up here in the corner of your screen if you're watching on YouTube, and you'll have all the links to everything concerning the show. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's dilligafpod@gmail.com. So this week's topic, figured we'd start off a little bit light, not get into anything too heavy just yet. I mean, it's only episode 2. So today I'm going to be talking about the top 10 greatest movies of all time, according to me. My show, my rules. So that's what we're talking about today. And these are just a little disclaimer here to go along with the disclaimer at the beginning of the show. Remember, these are just my opinions. I'm not stating that this is a definitive list and you know, stating that this is a fact or whatever. It's my 10 favorite movies of all time. But none of these movies are part of a franchise or anything like that. So you're not going to hear about Star Wars or Marvel or Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or any of that stuff. None of these are part of a series. Some of them have sequels, but as far as the sequels, these are for the most part just standalone awesome freaking movies that I personally love. So, you know, these are movies that I can watch over and over again. If I can't find anything to watch it at a particular time, I'll throw one of these on, or I'll sometimes just have them playing as like background noise while I'm working and stuff like that. These are just amazing freaking movies. So hopefully you like it. Hopefully if you haven't seen any of these, hopefully I give you some ideas for something to watch over the weekend, even though the Super Bowl's coming up tomorrow. That's okay. But and these are not in any particular order as well. I guess you could say they're in a loose order. The last one I'm going to talk about at number 1 is my top favorite movie of all time. But beyond that, not really in any kind of order. I'm not going to say I'm going from 10 to 1. These are just my 10 favorites. So let's dive in here with the first one I want to talk about, and that is The Crow. If you've never seen this movie, you need to. It's a very dark, very gothic type movie about, it stars Brandon Lee. He plays a musician named Eric Draven, and he and his girlfriend are murdered. And there's supposedly a legend that says if you are killed unjustly, or if you have just a bad type of death or whatever, although I don't know what a good type of death would be, but that a crow can bring your soul back to this world to seek justice, basically. And that's pretty much the premise of the movie. I'm not going to give any spoilers or anything, or get into like specific scenes or how the movies end or anything like that, in case some of you guys might not have seen some of these movies. But it's just it's part horror movie, part action movie, part love story, part it's an awesome movie. I mean, and this is the movie that Brandon Lee was actually killed during the filming of it in just a horrible accident. And I'm not even going to get into the details of that, because that could be a whole nother episode, because there are so many theories and so much conjecture surrounding how he died and why he died and things like that. that's a whole nother episode, and I might actually do that later on at some point. But so yeah, starting my list off, The Crow with Brandon Lee, just awesome freaking movie. Next up is a movie called Boiler Room. Stars Giovanni Ribisi, Vin Diesel, and Ben Affleck. And this was one of Vin Diesel's early movies, early on in his career. And Giovanni Ribisi basically plays a college dropout. But he's like brilliant beyond belief. Runs basically a gambling house out of his home, out of his apartment, and he gets recruited by this stock brokerage firm. And as the movie goes along, he finds out about some of the strange stuff going on at this broker firm, and it's very interesting. It's not really an action movie or a thriller or anything like that. I guess it would just be a straight drama. But yeah, just very interesting movie. I find it very interesting anyway. So definitely one to check out. Like I said, it's called Boiler Room. Stars Giovanni Ribisi, Vin Diesel, Ben Affleck. I actually used to work for a company that reminded me a lot of this movie. Just a lot of underhanded, kind of shady stuff going on. And after I left that company, found out they were being investigated by the FBI. So good thing I got out when I did. Next up, a movie called The Usual Suspects. Stars Kevin Spacey. I know he's kind of persona non grata in Hollywood now, but Kevin Spacey, Benicio del Toro, and Stephen Baldwin, and Gabriel Byrne is another one who's in this movie. A lot of stars in this movie. And it's about a group of criminals who are kind of rounded up on purpose. That's why it's called The Usual Suspects. Like something happened, cops just automatically round these 5 or 6 guys up. And they're rounded up and recruited by this unseen kind of mystery crime boss named Kaiser Sose to do a job for him. And this Kaiser Sose character, nobody's ever seen him. Nobody knows what he looks like. Nobody's ever even heard his voice or anything like that. He's a ghost, and a lot of people think he's like a legend or just a myth in the criminal underworld and things like that. And it's just a really cool like mystery thriller type movie. And I mean, even throughout the course of the movie, you never see this Kaiser Soze guy until the very end. And there's a really cool twist, and yeah, just it's one of those like it's one of those you need to watch, you need to pay attention, because if you pay close enough attention, you can figure it out if you really pay close attention. But yeah, it's one of those movies you do need to watch to know exactly what's going on. So but it's definitely worth checking out. Again, that's called The Usual Suspects. Awesome crime drama mystery thriller type movie. Next up is what I call a historical drama, and it's Braveheart with Mel Gibson playing William Wallace, who's like a Scottish hero, basically. He was a Scottish knight back in the 13th century, I believe it was, late 13th, early 14th century. And now I say it's a historical drama because the biggest complaint that people make about this movie is it's not historically accurate. It's a freaking movie. It's not a documentary. It's not supposed to be educational. It's supposed to be entertaining. And it is. It's very entertaining. A lot of really cool, like old-time medieval type battle scenes throughout the movie. And yeah, a lot of, it's a good action movie. There's also a lot of dramatic elements. It's about the Scottish War for Independence, basically. And William Wallace was considered a hero of that war. But if you go into it expecting a history lesson, you're going to be disappointed because there are a lot of historical inaccuracies in the movie. But again, that's not the point of the movie. It's not a documentary, so I don't want to hear any of that. Just watch it for what it is. It's a movie. It's meant to entertain you. It's not there for educational purposes. So, but yeah, Mel Gibson plays William Wallace, and it basically follows him from the time he's a child through his adulthood, becoming a knight, and the High Protector of Scotland. And it shows, his involvement in some of the battles and some of the like strategies that he basically innovated and things like that. Again, very interesting movie, a lot of action. So I definitely recommend this one. I saw this movie in the theater in 1995 after I graduated high school with a group of friends, and I just became hooked on it. I actually have a replica of the sword from the movie that that Mel Gibson carries in the movie hanging on my wall in my living room. So to tell you how big of a fan of this movie I am. And yeah, it's a good movie. It actually won the Oscar for Best Picture. So if that means anything to you, I don't put a lot of stock in the Oscars myself, but this particular time they got it right. So once again, that's Braveheart with Mel Gibson. Definitely worth checking out. Just make sure you have time. So this movie's about 3 hours long. It's one of those epic type movies. Up next, we got another kind of heart. This one's called Angel Heart. It stars Mickey Rourke and Robert De Niro. And this one is set in New York back in, I want to say it's 1940s or 50s, maybe. I think it's the 50s because it takes place like after World War II. But Mickey Rourke plays a private investigator who is hired by Robert De Niro's character to basically find somebody who Robert De Niro had a contract with, and the guy ran out on the contract, didn't fulfill his end of it. And the guy's been missing for like 15 years. So the movie follows Mickey Rourke as he's looking for this guy in New York, in New Orleans, and finds out a lot of crazy, creepy stuff about this guy and what kind of things he was into. And this is another one that has an interesting little twist at the end. This one kind of has that mystery thriller, some elements of horror in it, and just it's one of those movies that like you kind of get sucked into it and you need to know what's going to happen next. So again, Angel Heart, Mickey Rourke, Robert De Niro, awesome freaking movie. Lisa Bonet is also in it. I don't know if a lot of people still know who she is. She's not in a lot of stuff anymore, but back then she was famous for being on the Cosby Show. Another name that's not very popular in Hollywood anymore, but that's what she was well known for at the time. And this was like a huge departure from the character that she played on the Cosby Show, because she was one of the Cosby kids, all nice and wholesome and that kind of stuff. And the character she plays in this movie is not that. So, and I'll leave it at that. But so next up, these are all some of my all-time favorite movies, but this one is one that I can sit and watch over and over and over. I've probably seen it well over 100 times, and it is Tombstone with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. Kurt Russell plays Wyatt Earp. If you're not into Western, I've never been into Westerns. I was not, a big fan of like the old Clint Eastwood movies or anything like that. But this one, I don't know. There's just something about this one. Like I said, Val Kilmer, Kurt Russell plays Wyatt Earp, and it's about the events leading up to the gunfight at the OK Corral, if you're familiar with that from American history. About the events leading up to it, the gunfight itself, and then the aftermath with Wyatt Earp and his brothers. And of course, Doc Holliday, who's played by Val Kilmer. And this was the movie that like kind of made Val Kilmer my all-time favorite actor. He just does an amazing job playing Doc Holliday in this movie. And anybody who knows me or has known me for a while, my screen name that I use on a lot of stuff is Doc, because it's a nickname that I picked up in high school, and it was given to me because of this movie. Because of the way Doc Holliday is depicted in this movie. And I'm not talking about the drunken, gunfighter type stuff, but the way that he is with his friends. He's just depicted as somebody who is just fiercely loyal and protective of his friends and the people he cares about, even to his own detriment. So that's why this one holds a really, really special place for me. And yeah, this is another one, it's again a historical drama. Don't go into it expecting a documentary or a history lesson, because you're going to be disappointed. Yes, there are historical inaccuracies. It's a movie. They take artistic license. It's not meant to, accurately depict every single moment that happened during these events. Okay, it's meant to keep moving, and entertain people and keep them interested. If you want to see a documentary, there's tons of them out there about Tombstone, the OK Corral, and the Earps, and the Clantons, and Doc Holliday, and all of these people. And I watch most of the documentaries too, just because I'm that interested in that time period and those particular people. But In this case, Tombstone, again, holds such a special place for me simply because of that Doc Holliday character. It was like at one point in my life, you could probably even say it was an obsession. Like this, I watched this movie so many times over and over and over again. I cannot recommend it enough. If you're not a fan of like Western movies, still give this one a chance because I'm not a fan of Westerns, but I love this movie. So definitely check this one out. Next up is one that is supposed to be based on a true story. There's a lot of debate about it as to whether it actually happened or not. But the movie is called Sleepers and stars Brad Pitt and Jason Patric. It's about a group of childhood friends growing up in New York in the late 60s. And they get into some trouble, end up going to juvenile hall. I'm going to stop there for a second because I'm going to say this movie, if it was made today, would come with a major excuse me, would come with a major trigger warning because of some of the subject matter. So I'm going to say this now. You know, if you have an issue with abuse of any kind, you fast forward a minute or two. If you don't want to hear about that kind of subject matter, I'm not going to get real deep into it. I'm not going to give details or anything, but basically these four kids, they end up going to juvie because they get into some trouble while they're in juvie. They suffer a lot of abuse from the guards, and the film follows them while they're in juvie, after they get out, and how you see how it affects each one of them differently as they grow into adults, and how they handle it in the aftermath of getting out of juvenile hall. And it's very, I mean, obviously there are some sad moments in this, some very uncomfortable moments in this, but the overall story is just so good. And like I said, it's supposedly a true story. The person that wrote his name is Lorenzo Carcaterra. He wrote a lot of episodes of Law and Order, if you ever watch that show. But he says that this actually happened to himself and his group of friends when they were kids, but there's no records of it. Like the New York Department of Juvenile Corrections has no record of any of this stuff, of any of these kids being in juvenile hall. But then again, juvenile records are typically sealed, so they wouldn't release the records even if they did. But so it's implied that there's a cover up and that kind of thing. So take that for what it's worth. Take it with a grain of salt. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, but throw all that out the window. The movie itself is just fantastic. Kevin Bacon is actually in the movie as well. He plays one of the corrections officers in the juvenile facility that these kids are in. Yeah, a lot of stars. Robert De Niro is actually in this one too. He plays the kids priest in their neighborhood where they grew up. So a lot of stars in this one. And like I said, just an amazing story because it's just interesting to see these kids before all this stuff happens to them, and then how they come out afterwards, how it kind of shapes their lives having gone through all this stuff, and how they eventually kind of come to terms and deal with it. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's called Sleepers. Brad Pitt, Jason Patric, Robert De Niro, Kevin Bacon. Definitely worth a watch. Like I said, if you're easily triggered by scenes or references to different kinds of abuse, might be one you want to avoid. But if you can handle that kind of subject matter, it is definitely something that I'd recommend checking out. Okay, we're getting into my top three here, and these are my top three. I know I said the list was kind of in a loose order, but this one, the top three is definitely 1, 2, and 3. So this is my number 3 greatest movie of all time, according to me, is Fight Club. Brad Pitt, Edward Norton. Everybody's at least heard of this movie, I hope. But this is one I can never get tired of watching this movie. If I see it, if I'm flipping through like one of my streaming services and it's on there, oh, okay, I'm gonna watch that. But I mean, I've got it on DVD still. There are very few DVDs I still own, but this is one of them. And actually, I think I own all of these on DVD. As a matter of fact, But I think that's pretty much what my DVD collection now consists of, is basically these 10 movies and maybe a few more. But yeah, if you've never seen Fight Club, you have to watch it, because this is another one that has one of those twists towards the end where it's like, okay, and if you watch closely, you can kind of guess, but like the first time I saw it, I didn't see it coming. It's like, what? Really? Are you serious? But basically, Edward Norton is like an executive at a car company, not necessarily an executive. He works for a car company. He's just got a very mundane, monotonous, boring life, and he doesn't even have a name in the movie. They never say his name. It like in the credits, he's just credited as the narrator. But he meets this guy named Tyler Durden, who's played by Brad Pitt, and Tyler Durden is not quite a nomad, but very, you know, just kind of all over the place, has a million different jobs, does a million different things, constantly, doing whatever. And he's also like an anarchist, always trying to like shake up the system, so to speak, and things like that. And they start an underground fight club, hence the name of the movie. And they basically use this fight club to, well, I'm not going to get into all the details, but they use it to kind of get their hands into everything. The membership just gets huge, and they're able to get their hands into any industry, anything you can imagine. They're able to access it just because of this fight club that they started. Like I said, it's got the twist at the end where it's like, holy crap. So if you have never seen Fight Club, first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. So I guess I already broke that one. And the second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Watch the movie and you'll know exactly what I mean. You'll get it. The ones who've seen it, if you know, you know. But yes, Fight Club with Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, as far as I am concerned, a must-see movie for anybody. Obviously, it's very violent, so this is not one for the children, or maybe it is. Hell, if you know what, if kids can play the violent video games, they can watch Fight Club. So forget I said that. But yes, a lot of violence in this movie, a lot of pretty realistic fight scenes. And then also some shit that it's like, really? But definitely one, again, I'll watch it over and over again. My number 2 favorite movie of all time, and I really hope my buddy Rich is watching right now, because I know it's one of his favorite movies too. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Stars Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. It's based on a book by Hunter S. Thompson. And it's basically Johnny Depp plays Hunter S. Thompson under the alias of Raoul Duke. And Benicio del Toro plays the guy that was Hunter S. Thompson's lawyer. And I did not put his name in my notes, but goes under the alias of Dr. Gonzo in this movie. And it's just the two of them running rampant through Las Vegas on just a drug-fueled rampage. So again, if you're triggered by drug use or depictions or references to drug use, probably not the movie for you. But if you can handle those kind of things, the movie is hilarious. Honestly, just watching these two kind of just tear Las Vegas to shreds. They're, through all the different casinos, especially watch the part where they are in Circus Circus. It's not called Circus Circus in the movie because they couldn't get permission to use the name. It's called Bazooko Circus, but it's Circus Circus. Come on now. But me and my buddy Rich are constantly quoting this movie to each other because it's just that good, and some of the quotes are just that good. So I guarantee you will learn things about drugs that you never knew by watching this movie. But yeah, Hunter S. Thompson was definitely a bit out there with some of his writing and some of the stuff that he did and was into. And Hunter S. Thompson is actually has a cameo in the movie. And him and Johnny Depp actually became very close friends during the filming of this movie. Johnny Depp is the one who at Hunter S. Thompson's funeral fired his ashes out of a cannon on the side of a mountain. So it tells you the kind of guy Hunter S. Thompson was. That was his last wish, have his ashes fired out of a cannon. So keep that in mind as you're watching this movie, but definitely check it out. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Johnny Depp. I mean, hell, I use Raul Duke as my alias on Twitter, on my personal Twitter. That's the name that I put on there, and it's a picture of Johnny Depp as Hunter S. Thompson is my profile picture. So if you can find that, go ahead and follow my personal Twitter. But yeah, just my second all-time favorite movie, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Just watch it. Just trust me and watch it. Okay. And that brings us to number one, my all-time absolute favorite movie ever made, greatest movie of all time, according to me. And that is Boondock Saints. Stars Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus. They play a pair of Irish twin brothers living in Boston, and they basically become vigilantes. You know, they have a run-in with some Russian mobsters, and that just kind of starts the ball rolling, and they go on this mission which they believe to be a calling from God. Basically, they're straight up Irish from Boston. Of course, they're Catholics. So they believe this is a calling from God to quote unquote destroy all that which is evil so that which is good may flourish, is one of the lines from the movie. And yeah, basically it follows them from the time when they're just, a couple of Irish dudes working on a meatpacking plant to becoming pretty damn good vigilantes, going after mobsters and street criminals and drug dealers and everything else. They end up bringing one of their friends along with them, who's a low-level mob guy who kind of helps them to find the people that they go after. Willem Dafoe's in the movie. He plays an FBI agent who is looking for them. He has no idea who he's looking for. He just knows he's looking for these vigilantes that are taking out all these mobsters and stuff. And yeah, again, this is one they did make a sequel to it. The sequel is okay. I like the sequel. A lot of people didn't, but the original is the absolute best. This movie did not do great when it was in theaters, but when it came out, and because this is back in, I want to say 1999 is when this one came out. When it went to DVD, it like blew up. It broke records for rentals at Blockbuster and stuff like that, if y'all remember what a Blockbuster is. But yeah, just generated a huge cult following after it was released on home video. And that's when it became so popular. And then, a few years later, they actually ended up making a sequel. Again, I like the sequel. It's pretty good, but nowhere near as good as the original. I've heard there is a third movie in the works, and that's been like on and off for the last few years. Last I read, it was on again, but I haven't heard anything new about it in quite some time. So I don't know if it's going to happen. I kind of hope it does, because I love the characters. But again, it's Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus. Yes, Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead. Yeah, just again, awesome story. Two average normal Irish guys from Boston who just get tired of the bullshit and want to do something about it. I think that's a pretty damn good story. I think that's why I connect with it so much, because I'm always tired of the bullshit. I'm just not going to go out and start shooting people. This doesn't seem productive to me, but hey, that's how these guys want to handle it. More power to them. But again, it's called The Boondock Saints, my all-time absolute favorite, greatest movie ever made, according to me. My show, my rules. So hopefully you will check it out if you have not seen it already. And if you have seen it, watch it again. Always worth the watch. So that is my top 10 greatest movies of all time, according to me. I'm going to just run them down again real quick. We've got The Crow, Boiler Room, The Usual Suspects, Braveheart, Angel Heart, Tombstone, Sleepers, Fight Club, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and The Boondock Saints. So hopefully I've given you some stuff to check out. And oh, my camera got blurry there for a minute, didn't it? But anyway, hopefully I'm giving you guys some stuff to check out. Next time you're bored and want something good to watch, pick any one of these. You cannot ever go wrong with any one of these movies. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up for this week. Another kind of brief show. Don't worry, when I get into more serious subject matter, they'll get a little bit longer because I'll get more in depth into things. But like I said, I didn't want to give any spoilers or get deep into the storylines of any of these. I want people to actually say, okay, I want to go watch this and check it out. So, but again, thank you to everybody for watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, share. Please share, help me spread the word about the show, but also rate and comment on the show, especially on this one. Let me know, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know what some of your favorites are. Drop me comments on socials or drop me an email or a DM or whatever. Let me know what you guys think. Drop me a comment on YouTube or something. Let me know what your favorites are. Do you agree with these? Do you disagree with some of these? Why not? Whatever. I want to hear from you, so let me know. But make sure you're following on social media on all platforms. It's at DILLIGAF_pod. And you can find the links to everything on my Linktree, which is Linktree/DILLIGAF_pod. Or if you're watching on YouTube, just scan the little QR code right here in the corner of your screen. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's dilligafpod@gmail.com. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. But I also just want to say, if anybody has any issues with anything that I have said here today, ask yourself one question. Do I look like I give a fuck?
'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.